Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link to my Patreon page. So I'm here with a replay of round 1 of a friendly league. I've been doing friendly leagues lately because after playing blue-green for a few months, I wasn't able to continue going infinite on Magic Online, which is to say that I actually was losing event tickets. Not a lot, but I wasn't gaining them, which I was always doing when I was on Mono Blue. So friendly leagues are probably the most consistent way to build up event tickets on Magic Online. So I'm just gonna play friendly leagues for a little while, get comfortable with Mono Blue again, build up some event tickets, and then dive back into consistent competitive leagues. But this one is a replay of a friendly league. So I won the die roll in round 1. And this is a beautiful opening hand. We're probably going to open with Mutavault here, because if we don't draw a blue source on turn 2, we want to be able to do something. Getting in for 2 damage is pretty solid. Of course, even at running out Mutavault, if we draw Spreading Seas or Silvergill, we can just play our blue source and still cast spells on turn 2. So yeah, nice hand. I kept and the opponent kept. So there's a Mutavault. We'll play an AEther Vial and pass over to the opponent. A tapped Overgrown Tomb. No action on turn 1. We like to see that. Gives us time to get the ball rolling. Tick AEther Vial up. We drew a second Harbinger, which I was happy to see. We don't know exactly what the opponent's on yet, but Harbinger is typically very good against black-green decks, whatever it might be. So we'll activate Mutavault, swing for 2, and plan on bringing in Cursecatcher on the opponent's end step. We see the opponent plays Razorverge Thicket and Viscerous here. So at this point, we know they're on Devoted Company, and kind of a strange turn 2 play. If they had the Viscerous here in hand, they would have taken 2 life with the Overgrown Tomb and played it on turn 1. We know that Devoted Company has a ton of 2-drops, so maybe they're leaving up Path to Exile here, in which case it's nice that we have a Cursecatcher in hand, because we can make it sort of unprofitable for them to cast that. Let's take AEther Vial up. So hang on a sec. I drew a Mutavault for the turn, and I did some calculation here as to what the maximum sort of pressure I could put on would be. I mean, there's pretty much just 2 options here. I can bring in a Lord, activate Mutavault, swing for 5. The opponent goes to 13. That gives me 3 creatures on the board. Of course, I can bring another Lord in next turn with AEther Vial, at which point I'd have Mutavault as 4, Cursecatcher as 3, and the other Lord is 3, swinging for 10. So that would only get the opponent down to 3, something around there. On the other hand, if I use Oboro to float blue and then bounce it using Mutavault mana, replay Oboro for second blue, I can get another Lord on the table now, activate Vial, bring in the second Lord, swing for 3. The opponent goes to 15. That would give me the 4 creatures, 4, 3, 3, and 3. So that's 13 on the board. Swing for 3, they go to 15. The following turn, I could take them down to 2. Of course, if I draw another Lord, that would be overkill. If I draw another land, well, I won't be able to activate 2 Mutavaults next turn if I do that Oboro bouncing plan, because we won't have 4 lands out. But I do decide that getting more bodies onto the table is the better plan. So I think that I did this Oboro thing wrong, but in the future, I think that I figured out how to do it correctly. So what I did was I floated the blue, and when the blue was floating there, I clicked on the ability where it says to return Oboro, and then having floating mana, Magic Online assumed that I wanted to use that blue mana to pay for the ability. So I did it pretty much the worst way possible. In the future, I think what I should do is click on Oboro, choose the ability, at which point the program will ask me to pay, to provide the mana to pay for the ability. And when it asks me that, I can tap the Mutavault to get the colorless mana to float it, and then replay it and get the blue mana. So I played out a Mutavault, which the sequencing at this point isn't a huge deal. I've got my AEther Vial going. I can just have to go with the first plan that I outlined, just because I misclicked with Oboro. Opponent's down to 13. Tireless Tracker, not a combo piece. This is a pretty slow start from a deck that's usually super explosive. Well, there's a 4th land. I think I'm just going to activate Mutavault, swing with my guys. Well, with the 2, I think. I would maybe not with Master. I'd rather not lose a Lord right now, even if it trades with Tireless Tracker. So no blocks, bring in a Lord and get in for 7. Opponent's already down to 6. They're going to get a clue off that fetch land. We're going to see a Kitchen Finks, so nice defensive spell. Okay, cracking the Windswept Heath, they're going to get a basic forest and another clue. And then a Hierarch, so building up a decent board. If I don't draw another Lord, then I don't have great attacks into the Tireless Tracker and Kitchen Finks, so I could still activate the Mutavault. The opponent is getting in with Tireless Tracker here, which seems like a dubious attack from my position. I found that often in the first rounds of leagues, you get paired with relatively inexperienced people, or at least a lot more often than in the later rounds. So, yeah, he's just kind of like writing his own death warrant here, because he's got these 2 little guys who, if I activate the Mutavaults, just on board, the opponent has to block 3 of my creatures to not die. He could trade Kitchen Finks with the Lord, but then he's going to have to chump with his 2 little guys. One of them is a combo piece. And, you know, the Harbinger is going to be able to bounce that Tireless Tracker. Cursecatcher at the draw for the turn, probably not going to be relevant. Play the Cavern, activate both Mutavaults, and go to attacks, because like I said, we're a huge favorite from this position. Okay, so we get in with everybody, and the opponent, I think, started lining up blocks. Probably not how he wanted to do that anyway. He wanted to put the 3/2 in front of one of my Lords. But then I think he just decided that it was really bad for him anyway that he arranges creatures for blocks, and chose to scoop. So pretty easy game 1. Kind of a very silly misplay with Oboro, but I know in the future how to activate it correctly. You should click on Oboro and then select the ability first, rather than floating mana first. That way, it'll ask you to provide the mana, at which point you can tap the Mutavault and not screw up like I did. Fortunately, I was still able to get there. So look away if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to click out of this window now. All right, back for game 2. The opponent's going to be on the play this time. Another beautiful opening hand. Let's go ahead and look at my sideboarding approach for game 2. So I took out 9 cards. I have a lot to bring in against this matchup. Kira is easy to remove. The deck doesn't have a lot of targeting effects for our creatures. I took out one of my Spell Pierces because they have a lot of mana dorks. They tend to hit their land drop, so Spell Pierce can quickly get outclassed. Same thing with Cursecatcher. I took out a couple of Cursecatchers. I left a couple in because they are interaction, just like I left in one of the Spell Pierces as, you know, 1 CMC counter spells. They can do work, but they're situational. So took out 1 Spell Pierce, took out 2 Cursecatchers, and all 4 Reejereys, just because as far as our creatures go, they provide the least in terms of just important abilities for the matchup. We really want Island Walk. We really want to be able to go wide, so we leave in all of our Master of Waves. If they don't hit their combo, then their plan B is just to go wider than the opponent, and Master of Waves sort of makes that impossible. And then Harbingers are great, again, to take them off of that plan B and keep their board relatively thin. Silvergill, you never side them out, and that just leaves Reejereys pretty much. So easy to take out the 4 Reejereys, 2 Cursecatchers, Spell Pierce, and 2 Cures. We brought in 3 Relics to keep them off of the Kitchen Finks combo, 2 Dispels, and then 2 Dismembers, and the 2 Echoing Truths. So 4 ways to interact with creatures with the Echoing Truths and the Dismembers. 3 pieces of Graveyard Hate with the Relics, and then 2 Dispels, which are pretty much the best counter spell in this matchup against their 2 sort of Haymaker instant spells, Court of Calling and Collected Company. All right, so as I said, the opening hand looks amazing. We've got interaction for bouncing their creatures, Master of Waves to go wide. and the Island Walk Lord for some Island Walk. We'll play the AEther Vial. Relic is a nice draw. It's one of our sideboard cards, and that's always what you want to see in games 2 and 3. So Kazali Pridemage. This could be a sideboard choice for the opponents. A lot of times I think these decks might run one of these guys in the main deck. Really solid against AEther Vial. Could potentially slow us down a ton since I'm only on 2 lands. Another Island Walk Lord is awesome as long as I can keep this AEther Vial alive. We're just going to go ahead and play out a one of these Island Walk Lords, now getting value this turn. Don't want to just play Relic. Doesn't use the mana efficiently. And we're just going to hope that the opponent doesn't crack the Kazali Pridemage this turn. Well, cracking the Verdant Catacombs is a good start. Are they going to go for a 3-drop here? Okay, so Kitchen Finks is a great card in the matchup. It gains them life and gives them a blocker. But this is a really terrible play here because if I get to tick up AEther Vial, I get to put in a free 2-drop, which is just massive value. If they instead attacked with Kazali for 3, that's fine, and then getting value off of him that way. Then sack him, blow up my AEther Vial. That's huge. I'd be left on 2 lands, and they would be able to play out a 2-drop instead of a 3-drop this turn, or maybe a 1-drop if they don't have a 2-drop. But this is just a really, really poor play from the opponent. Okay, so now they're going to get in. Of course, I'm not going to block, but I am going to take my AEther Vial up to 2 on my turn. And there's that 3rd land. That's perfect. So you know what? I'm going to just cast the Harbinger here to get the Kazali Pridemage off the table. That's going to slow the opponent down a lot because if they want to get my Vial off the board, they're going to have to replay this guy and pay an extra mana to sack him. So essentially time walking them for the next turn. Bounce that guy, and then I'm going to get the Relic on the board. Get rid of the Verdant Catacombs, and with an empty board, this Relic is going to be fantastic against this Kitchen Finks here. No attacks to be had, but if the opponent comes at me, I've got another Harbinger waiting. So there's that Pridemage. I think the opponent kind of realized his misplay, and doesn't even try to get in with Exalted with Kitchen Finks, which seems like it might have been the better play. They're going to go for it right now, and in response, I'm just going to put in a Lord of Atlantis. AEther Vial down, but I've got 3 lands at this point. No attacks, and nothing else. So, no more AEther Vial. I draw a Silvergill for the turn, which is pretty solid. I'll go ahead and activate the Relic, get that Pridemage out of there. I think I will get in with the Harbinger here. Even if the opponent has removal for one of my lords, the removal trades with the Lord, and Harbinger would trade with Kitchen Finks because, of course, I can just crack this in response to the Persist trigger. So I feel pretty good about this attack. Kitchen Finks is a combo piece, so being able to get him off the table is definitely worth trading if we can do that. So you see the opponent taking 3 to fetch and shock, get a Temple Garden, exile my Lord. It's going to give me a 4th land, so I can play this Master of Waves later if I want. And if he blocks his Harbinger, as I said, I can just crack my Relic, draw a card, keep him off of his Kitchen Finks. And we drew another Island Walk Lord, so I think I'm going to play that guy out, even ahead of Silvergill Adept, because I've got a potential follow-up Master of Waves with tons of devotion. Okay, there's a Vizier of Remedies, a little bit scary, another combo piece. Okay, and another Kitchen Finks, which means that a Viscera Seer off the top or a Court of Calling for a Viscera Seer means infinite life. So we've got to be as aggressive as possible, or as careful as possible. So I drew a Relic, which is amazing because it interacts perfectly with this Kitchen Finks combo. So I'm gonna go with Silvergill here and see what I draw. I'll reveal, I think, the Harbinger, just because I don't want the opponent to know that I have the powerful Master of Waves in hand. All right. I drew another Harbinger. It's decent. And we'll play out a Relic. Now, another land at this point wouldn't be terrible because it would let me tap out with Master of Waves and leave up Relic. At this point, since the opponent has just 2 combo pieces and we have a lot of gas in hand and another card draw represented on the table with Relic, The opponent's on 1 card in hand. I think we can comfortably attack into these guys here. Looks like I decided not to. That was a close call that turn. Again, if the opponent blocked with Kitchen Finks, we could get rid of it with the Relic. And getting the Vizier off the board, we basically would trade our 2 creatures for their 2 creatures. I think ultimately what made me go with not attacking was that I'd rather hold on to the Devotion for 1 more turn to get a super big Master of Waves in the following turn. Or at least have it as an option. Here's a Birds of Paradise and a Duskwatch Recruiter. Now there's no infinite mana to go crazy with this guy and dig for like a Walking Ballista or something, so you can see the go wide strategy in action here. They can basically just try to stall me until they can draw a Chord of Calling or Viscera Seer. Now they have Birds of Paradise to actually hard cast a Viscera Seer if they draw it. They didn't have black mana before just casting that Birds of Paradise. We do want to leave this Relic up, so unfortunately I can't play the Master of Waves right now, but if we look at the board over here, the opponent's got a lot of little guys. 2-1, 0-1, 2-2. And this 3-2. If I play out this Island Walk Lord, that's going to give me some attacks that I can leverage to my advantage. So yeah, just get in with everybody. If the opponent blocks with the Kitchen Finks, we can just get rid of it. Looks like they only block with the Kitchen Finks, which means that I'm not even going to have to crack the Relic. I can just tap it to get rid of the Finks. So massive value from this Relic. The opponent took 8 from my Island Walk Lords. And yeah, I can just pass the turn with mana up to crack the Relic if I want to. Draw an extra card. Okay, the opponent has nothing better to do than to activate the Duskwatch Recruiter. I think they drew another Vizier of Remedies. Yeah. So it looks like they could just, the best thing they have to do is to play that guy out, setting themselves up for some horrible chump blocks next turn. So we drew a land, and that means we can play Master of Waves, but I went to combat first. Now, the reason I went to combat first, I did think about it for a while. You have to think carefully about when you play Master of Waves. We have extremely overwhelming attacks right now. The opponent has 1 card in hand. They could have a Dismember or a Path or something. And even if they Path one of our guys, they're still going to either take a lot of damage or lose a lot of their board. We might lose one of our creatures if they double block after pathing or something, or some removal. But we can follow up with a huge Master of Waves and a Relic still having mana up. So I wanted the opponent to feel like they just had to deal with my board. You know, sort of, if they could get through this turn, you know, then maybe they'd have a shot. And then sort of crush their hopes with a follow-up Master of Waves. Okay, so we do see the path. These are interesting blocks here. Looks like they want to keep their combo, at least one of their combo pieces on the board. We're going to see a path here, and then obviously they're just chumping with these 2 other guys. Now, if I had played the Master of Waves out first, they could have pathed that guy. As it stands, I'm just going to lose 2 Devotion, but still get something like 5 tokens when I play Master of Waves. 6, actually, I think. Okay, so there's 6 tokens. We'll just trim a card from the opponent's graveyard. And yeah, either way I played it, I think we were pretty much dominating this turn. But I preferred it the way I ran it out. I'd rather that the Island Walk Lord eat the path rather than Master of Waves. But as I said, you know, we're probably going to win this game anyway. Opponent activates Duskwatch Recruiter and then chooses to scoop. So, yeah, they didn't have crazy explosive combo hands in this match. This felt like the fairest match I've ever had against Devoted Company. Most of the time, you know, you feel powerless. They just get turn 2 Devoted Druid, turn 3 Vizier, and they're off to the races. This time, they just played a bunch of little value creatures, sometimes not even that valuable. I mean, what does Vizier do if you don't actually have the combo? It does nothing. It's just a terrible 2-1. Yeah, and we just got lands. creatures. That's pretty much all it took. The Relic of Progenitus did a great job. And yeah, 2-0 against Devoted Company. Please let me know your thoughts on the match. Leave any comments, questions you might have, and subscribe if you haven't already. Please check the link to my Patreon page, and I'll see you guys in the next video where I'll be back with round 2 of this Modern Friendly League. Thanks a lot. I'll see you there. Bye.